Here I'm testing 3 different types of mounts for the Sony FDR-X3000 action camera. The first is a PVC stabilization rig for walking that I made of PVC, and some bicycle hand grips and a few mounts and some hardware, as you'll see here. Yeah, probably too many pieces of hardware right there for the different types of mounts, but the ball joint up top for that live action works pretty good. I also made this really handy dandy cover for a sunshade. It actually works pretty well. It's made out of gaffer's tape. I found that if I hold it really tight to my body rather than 3 or 4 inches away, it works much better. I find that my walking is pretty good. It feels natural. But I think that the movement is pretty good. I like the fact that it feels natural. It isn't jerky or bumpy like I actually do tend to walk. I also tend to sway side to side. Some of that is picked up a little bit, but it feels pretty natural to me. I think I could watch this for a while. Here is a Trackform action camera mount and Sandmarc Navy mount for biking that I put on my bike. This works pretty good. It's on there really solid. Now take a look at how it handles the bumps and the cracks in the road. I found that this little Sony action camera right there does have a hard time with some of those really sharp, quick bumps. Unlike walking, it didn't smooth things out quite as much as I was hoping. Now, if I didn't have any stabilization at all, it obviously would be much worse. I have a whole bunch of rocks and gravel here, and yeah, you can see a little bit of jittery there. And of course, I do tend to sway side to side as I ride, and the camera does pick some of that up. I think it's trying to smooth some of that out, but it can't get all of it. This is kind of a rough road, and you can see that it's bouncing around a little bit, especially at the edges. And right there, you see there's a bit of jello going on the edges there. I'm going to come up to the curve here in a moment, and it's a little jarring. Actually, it's not too bad. I mean, you expect some, and it's there. This is what it looks like on the bike. Seems to work pretty well. It's pretty solid. Here I had a Manfrotto MTPIXI-RD. I've had this particular little tabletop tripod for a while. Putting it on the dashboard of my car, right up against the window. Good test. Watch the edges at the bottom. You see how it seems like the whole car moves, but Walgreens really remained in place. I was really impressed at what it does in a car. Here, let's try that again. Watch the horizon. Yeah, the horizon stays nice and level, but the car seems to rock back and forth. Just kind of amazing what the little stabilization does. Again, watch what happens to the dash. We'll actually see the dash shift a little to the right, and then back to the left. Again, as the in-body stabilization compensates for that turn. That's just interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Let's take a look at how smooth this is at 65 miles an hour. Little bit on the edges, we can see some, but pretty smooth. Cars, poles, and anything else that's vertical really gets distorted. Watch this. Ooh, yeah, you see how things just kind of got distorted there with that whole jello effect or rolling shutter? But that was a smooth road. This is a nice dirt road. And if we go down an extremely rustic rural dirt road, watch what happens here. Again, watch the bottom there as we have the whole car seeming to compensate, but the horizon stays pretty level. It's slightly off kilter here, but it doesn't bounce around. I could easily correct this in post by just cropping in a little bit and changing its orientation. Yeah, this was a pretty bad road. I was doing 15 miles an hour, and that's really as fast as I could go on my little Honda Fit. But we'll see, it just smooths it. Look at the horizon compared to what's going on with the dashboard and the window below. Just amazing. Really smooths this out. I was actually quite impressed with what it does here. Here's another nice dip. Yeah, perfect example of how it smooths things out. That was a pretty hard one there, but the horizon looked great. So this part of the road looks like it's graded sometimes, but coming up to this, I actually bottomed out, so you can hear a nice crunch. Take a listen and watch the horizon. Yeah, that was a pretty hard bump I got. Again, you see things moving back and forth. We do see some shaky footage here because this is a washboard road here. It's sharp, quick movements. It seems to do a fantastic job with rolling smooth movements like walking, speed bumps, and dips, but when it starts to get into this really hard terrain with these quick jarring movements, it doesn't seem like the stabilization motors can quite keep up enough. You know, I use a lot of expensive gear, some with stabilization, some not. I find that the stabilization on this thing is actually really, really good. But it's a small sensor, has terrible dynamic range, and of course it's very bad in low light. But if you're going to use it outside, and you're going to need lots of stabilization, I think it's a really good choice. Just don't crop in too much, because its video quality falls apart really quickly.